Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show podcast. Hey, and a shout out to all of our new listeners. We've had just a great number of new people listening into the podcast. I want to say thank you. If you're new listening in, you can always go back to episodes 1 and 2. I mean, that was like, 311 episodes ago, because that really shares what impact stands for. It's a mindset. It's a lifestyle of what impact is all about. So if you're new, welcome to the fam. If you are a returning veteran, heck, some of you have listened to every darn episode. Thank you. Love hearing that. But I have a special treat for you today. I have my new friend, Evan Ramirez, who's going to be joining us here on the show, who I had the opportunity to recently meet, break bread with, and get to know. And as I was talking with him, I'm like, man, Evan, we've got to get you on the podcast. So with that being said, Evan Ramirez is on the show. Evan, what's happening?
Todd, thank you so much for having me. It's great.
Man.
I'm super stoked to be here.
Guys, when we talk about Navy SEALs, everyone's ears perk up. And every time I have someone in the military, first responders on the podcast, everyone gets all excited. But let me warn you, today is going to be a little different. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be deep. And Evan has one heck of a story that is going to defy many things you have ever heard when it comes to being a Navy SEAL, and really what it takes, the behind the scenes, behind the curtain of some of the things that not only him, but all his brothers as SEALs and his brothers and sisters in the Navy. Evan had a 21-year career in the Navy, and a decorated career, an illustrious career with many different deployments, which we'll get into today. He had 11 of those 21 years as a SEAL. Guys, 11 years as a Navy SEAL. Now, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're listening, this dude right here, he's the bad mo. He's a dude that you don't want to mess with. And he's the kind of guy you want on your side. And I'm like, God bless America. Thank God there are men and women like Evan Ramirez out there protecting our freedom. And I'm pumped because a great friend of mine and Evan's, Gus Cheliotis, connected us. And Gus, who I have the opportunity to coach through my Impact X program, he is not only a great businessman and husband and father, he's a philanthropist. And one of the things that Gus Cheliotis is behind, yes, you're right, Gus Cheliotis, I know that name. He was on the podcast. Go back and listen to that episode. I'll put it in the show notes. He is a part of the SEAL Future Foundation. And at the SEAL Future Foundation is where Evan Ramirez, our guest on today's show, and Gus met. Why? Because Gus, through his team that he works with back in New York, raised over $1 million for the SEAL Future Foundation. Let me repeat. Over $1 million raised, SEAL Future Foundation. Evan Ramirez goes in and happens to sit at the same table with Gus Cheliotis and his family. And Gus then said, hey, TD, you need to meet this Evan Ramirez. He just retired as a SEAL. He lives out in San Diego. You guys need to clang and bang and do some workouts together. He's going to grad school now that he's retired. I'm like, let's go. So special shout out to Gus Cheliotis. Evan, any shout outs to our guy Gus back in New York right now?
Oh, absolutely. Gus is the man. He was absolutely incredible, and he's been a huge piece to that $1 million raised in New York. So it was an honor, to be honest, to be sitting next to him and his wife, and even at the table. It was a lot of fun. They were, yeah. You get certain individuals that you sit around or they get to hang out with for a short amount of time, and you immediately connect. And that was kind of like more of a relationship with Gus. So I was very, very stoked to be around.
Well, we're going to get into this iron sharpens iron concept and surrounding yourself with the right people. I happened to come in contact with Gus way back, Impact Body Plan 2012. And I've talked about him before. His wife, Katina. Guys, if you have not had Costa Rica, go to Whole Foods or go to Costa Rica. You're like, what's Costa Rica? Just put that olive oil on your salads and you will be healthier. But Katina and Gus, I love their hearts and souls to give back, especially to our military. And I'm very, very grateful, Evan, you're here today on the show, because I want to jump into what we discussed and are going to go deep on today, on your career and as a Navy SEAL, some of the lessons and principles that you've learned as a SEAL. I don't care if you're a young man or woman, a mom, dad, you're an athlete, you're an entrepreneur, you're a grandma, grandpa. This will speak to you today at some level. So buckle up your bootstraps, strap on your parachute. Mark my word, strap on your parachute or two. Make sure you have an emergency parachute on, because you might need it for today's episode. So with that being said, the show starts now. So Evan, I want to go back to growing up. Did you have dreams of being a Navy SEAL? Is this something that you're like, man, growing up, I want to be a Navy SEAL? Talk about that and your dreams when you were a young kid.
Yeah. So to answer your question really quick, no, I didn't have visions of being a Navy SEAL. It was actually more along the lines of I wanted to play sports. I wanted to and get something along go into something along those lines.
Okay.
And there was a part of me also that I was like, oh, okay, well, what about possibly joining the military as a possibility? But maybe I was thinking something along the lines of maybe being a pilot. I thought that was kind of like a really cool something to be something to join in, and I thought that was going to be something that I could probably really like.
Yeah,
and I was very interested in that.
So fast forward, you're living in, what was it, Miami, Florida at the time with your father?
So I was raised up in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And so West Palm Beach, you have the island of Palm Beach, and that's kind of like one of those very, very, very nice parts of town. But
Big money. Palm Beach, Florida is big money now.
Palm Beach, Florida is some big money. But
Yep.
at the same time, you also have the outside of Palm Beach, which is West Palm. And it's kind of like any nice area, you have kind of like your right outside of those lines, not the best of areas.
Okay.
So I did move with my dad at probably 14 years of age, and my dad didn't live in the best of areas in West Palm. And so I ended up, so because of that, that transition of where I grew up in Costa Rica, I lived in Costa Rica for a couple of years to learn Spanish. When I moved with my dad, it was a little bit like I was a shell shocked, I guess, because of the violence and all that stuff that he grew up with, and he didn't even think twice about. So you kind of like have to evolve and adapt to your environments, and so that's kind of what I did. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit different.
So you lived you were in Costa Rica, you were learning Spanish, living with your mom, and then you moved back to South Florida, not the best of areas. You're around good people at this time. You're in good schools. Are you running with crowds that weren't the best?
Yeah, I feel that you sometimes have to roll with some crowds that aren't the best at times, and that was definitely my environment at that time.
Okay.
And it was, yeah, it was definitely not the best of times in a sense of like the crowds that I was hanging out with, and being a young man at that time that was kind of like angry, and nobody can tell you anything, and you're just, you got it all figured out, and so that was me. I had it all figured out, and nobody knew more than me.
So 14 to 17 years old, you're strutting around South Florida like you had it all figured out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If I was your coach back then, what 3 words do you think a coach or teacher would describe Evan Ramirez as? What would that? Yeah, you're laughing. He's laughing.
To my parents, probably rambunctious.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very active. But I think they probably would have said he's very he knows how to talk to people, that he's very influential. But at the same time, he's very influenced. So yeah,
so not always influencing the right way. Not always influencing the right way.
That was the best way to say it to my parents. My parents probably took it as the best compliment ever.
So at 17, major fork in the road moment for any man or woman. What are the choices? What are you deciding at that point to do?
Yeah, I was still kind of in that whole conundrum if like if I were to join the military, because at the time I was getting in a little bit of trouble from time to time.
Mm,
Um, and fortunately, my mother was a judicial interpreter that kind of got me out of some trouble.
hmm,
And so at that time, I was kind of thinking, oh, I may join like the Air Force or something like that would have aviation, and and become a pilot. I don't know where that was going to go, but yeah,
okay.
there was some maybe desire to get out of where I was at to join the military, to just kind of leave my troubles behind.
So what made you ultimately decide to go into the Navy?
I was court ordered.
Hmm.
So I got into trouble in high school, probably my senior year, the beginning of my senior year, and because of that, being going back to what my mom was, she was a judicial interpreter. She was able to hook up the courthouse in the sense of like she knew some of the pro bono. She knew some of the pro bono lawyers. She knew some of the judges from working there for so many years. So she was able to make some connections in that regard. And I remember on one of my the hearing that the judge just let me have it. And at the time, I was again some punk who thought, "Who is this guy? He's talking about my mom."
Right.
And so, but his words they stuck with me. And
Hmm.
his words were, um, are you Sonia's son?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "It's it's interesting that you come in here in one moment, and I've known your mom for so many years. And in this one moment, you are basically destroying her reputation." And obviously that kind of
Mm,
angered me at that time, because I was like, who is this guy? Why is he talking about my mom? And bringing her up in that conversation. But at the same time, it kind of struck a chord with me in the sense of like my actions are go beyond myself, and can affect not only myself, but others around me, and people that I truly care about.
mm. And what young kid doesn't want to, make mom or dad proud? So here you are, the judge just says, you're destroying your mom's reputation
For sure.
on this. So essentially, just so I'm clear, a court order to go to the military is you're either going to the military or you're going to jail.
I was too young at that time, so I would have been going to juvie.
Jeez.
Um, so, but I was definitely like one of those. It was one of those situations that it was for me an easy decision.
Mm.
Whether and it was kind of along the lines of something I was even contemplating at the time, maybe joining the military. So it just reaffirmed that, okay, this is what you got to
Okay.
do.
So I'm sitting on the edge of my seat wanting to know more. So here you are, because we know the end. You're a Navy SEAL for 11 years and 21 years in the Navy, but you go into the Navy, and what next? What are the next steps? You don't go from having a little bit of a checkered upbringing to getting court ordered to to go to the military and into a Navy SEAL. What happens?
Yeah.
You go in the Navy.
Yeah, so before I joined the Navy, I almost ruined the whole thing, because I got one of the stipulations was not do not have like any suspensions or anything like that, and into a fight and a big suspension happened. So
Okay.
that whole thing, I almost screwed up the whole thing already. A good deal almost went sour. But joined the military, and when I joined the military, it was one of those things that I couldn't do any special programs. The first 4 years was to annul my record.
Wow.
So the no special programs was I think for 2 years or something like that, and then 4 years for my record to be annulled.
Mm.
And this was all prior to 9/11, so this was in 2000. And I joined when I joined. I didn't take so there's an exam called the ASVAB when you're joining the military. I don't know
Okay.
the acronym, but the ASVAB is essentially a test to find out what you're good at. And they can basically see what your IQ, like your intelligence level. Are you
Right.
more like an engineer type? Are you more of like a mathematical type? And so it kind of like is able to identify how you score on
Strength
that, and then
finders.
from
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
you basically get a job. And again, me being the kid who knew it all, some punk that was like, the rules don't apply to me, I didn't take it seriously enough, and I scored very, very poorly. So I only had about 2 or 3 jobs, which again made it very easy for me to choose which job I was going to go. And at that time, it was an AS, and so that's an aviation support equipment technician.
Okay.
And that's basically the people that, when you're looking at an aircraft, you see the tow trucks, you see all these things that are moving these vehicles around. Um, that was my job, was to maintain those types of equipment, jacks and all that stuff, vehicles, the gears that start up the planes.
Yep.
So I was not able to do any special programs, and I quickly realized that when I joined the military, it wasn't the impression that I had envisioned,
Hmm.
as far as like what the military pertained, as far as like I had this image that these guys were all, everybody in the military was just crushing workouts and everything like that, and that really wasn't the case. So it was an eye opener for me, that I realized if I'm going to be in the military, I couldn't stay in this job that I was currently in. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. So from 18 to 22, you're in aviation support, working this job, learning the
So
trade.
yeah, 18 to about 21.
Okay.
I was in aviation. So the first 2 years had passed at that time. And then at that, shortly when I was leaving my job as an AS, so I was stationed in Keflavik, Iceland at that time.
Hmm.
Which was a blessing in disguise. Again, I was as far away from home as I possibly could get. And it was, once I finished that in deployment cycle, or not even deployment, that shore command,
Yep.
I was able to change my job to a air crew rescue swimmers, which was an AW at that time. And that was a source rate to become a SEAL. That was kind of when I was in my first command, I realized that if I'm going to be in the military, I might as well make the most of it. So I'm going to try to join some special forces group. And again, 9/11 happened in my first command, which kind of like um, sparked the fire under me, in the sense of like, I have to do something bigger than me. And yeah.
Talk more about that, because 9/11, for those of us who were alive, all had a different experience and how it impacted you. I know a
Yeah.
number of military men and women who went into the military because of 9/11. Talk more about, what did that spark do to you? What did you start thinking about? How did that impact you as a young man at that point?
Yeah. As a young man, I guess you have this um, sense of invincibility.
Mm,
And so you're thinking, again, it's kind of like going back to like where I grew up. It's wherever you grow up, like somebody slaps you in the face, you're gonna hit them back, or you want to get your piece of flesh, that for what they did to us.
yep.
And so wanted I wanted, in a sense, vengeance. I wanted I wanted to get my pound of meat. And
Mm.
and I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that as a mechanic where I was working at.
So is this when you learned about what SEALs were, or was that something you always knew about? Or how did
Yeah,
you then go from aviation support to SEAL?
for sure. So while I was in boot camp, that's when I first learned about the SEALs. And there there was the division, which is like the boot camp class that I was in. They had like a group where they were like, okay, if any special warfare guys, they would go and work out in the morning and have their extra workout besides the boot camp workouts. um and I was always performing at a very high level when it came to run, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. I was always able to perform at a very high level. And when it came down to it, they were like, "Hey, like, would you want to consider joining the SEALs?" And I'm like, Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I had to join that little like workout program, and I quickly realized that I did not know how to swim. I knew how to swim, but I knew how to swim. I just didn't have any endurance. Like I can jump in the pool, I could swim back and forth and jump out of the pool. I can swim in the ocean, but when it came down to like long distance swimming, it was an eye opener, especially when you have to do combat side stroke as a stroke.
Mm.
And the combat side stroke is essentially you're swimming on your side where you are extending your arm and you're basically your head's in the water and then you turn your head to breathe. So it reduces the amount of splash that you have on the surface. And so that's why it's one of those favorable combat side strokes for naval special warfare.
Mm-hmm.
So doing that, I realized that I couldn't swim that well. And then that was kind of like the spark that kind of like ignited me in the sense like it was like, oh, this is like the first time I had been able to really crush something.
Interesting.
Um, and then I went to that first command in Keflavik, Iceland. It was an eye opener with all the other individuals of the military. And then there was a small group of guys that I knew that were, in all honesty, crushing it. Like they
Mm.
were, like I remember seeing they would do like little Iceland competitions, guys that were doing 50 pull-ups, guys that were running crazy speed, swimming, and they didn't make it. So they didn't make it through buds, and they were those guys in the first command, and they were called buds dropouts. And I was like, holy cow! If they didn't make it, I want to definitely try that. And so
Love it.
there's that competition factor in you that I was like, okay. So I had a buddy of mine, Jacob, and he used to be a high school swimmer, and he taught me how to swim.
Good.
So I would have to say, like, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to. I would not have been able to pass. And so we practiced, we practiced. He fine tuned my strokes, to the point where I was able to really swim a lot faster than him. And then that's kind of when it like reassured everything about me. I was like, I can literally do this.
And how old were you at that point?
21,
You're
yeah,
21.
20,
Okay.
21 or so,
Okay.
if I'm not
So
mistaken.
18 to 21, you're doing this work. 9/11 acts as a catalyst. It lights a
Mhm,
fire inside of you. Um,
mhm.
and you say, okay, I need to serve at a different capacity versus just aviation support. I want to go in, I'll quote, I wanted my piece of flesh. I like that.
Yeah.
And then that was the catapult. So you're 21 years old. Keep going. What happens between then and becoming a SEAL? Did you get your record? Must have gotten old over a 4-year period.
Correct.
Okay.
So then I was able to go to a special program, which was an air crew rescue swimmer. And so I
Mm,
was able to change my job. And then at that time, it was the rates are basically your job in the military, kind of like in the military, like in the Marines or the Army, it's MOS. That's like your profession, if you will. So rates are in the Navy, and there was no rates for SEAL. So there was only source ratings. So to make advancement, to
mm,
make rank, but you had like SEAL behind your rate.
yep.
Um, so I ended up changing my rate because AW was a source rate to become a SEAL.
Got it.
And so shortly after, I ended up graduating air crew, rescue swimmer. I graduated all that with honors as honor man. It was one of those things that the SO rating came out shortly after, which is the SEAL rate.
Mm,
So I kind of got trapped in that air crew rescue swimmer rate, which was a great job. Got some great friends, great deployments, great experiences overall.
mhm,
But
mhm.
at the end, it wasn't like what I was shooting for. And so because of that, even as soon as I checked into like my school, I was trying to see if I can put in packages to go to the SO buds realm, and it didn't work out that way. Because one, the military is like, okay, we spent all this money to get you through this school, air crew, rescue swimmer. Like we got to make something out of you in a sense. Like we got to get our money back somehow. We got to
Yep.
get our returns. And that return turned into like a very long time in that community. I think I was there for about 5 or 6 years as a rescue swimmer, because I kept on putting packages after packages after packages to go to Buds. And so I finally got accepted in 2009 to go to Buds. Yeah.
At how old?
I would like to say I was like 28 when I got accepted to go to Buds.
So wait a second. You're 21, you get on fire to become a SEAL, and you're taking all these different packages for 6 or 7 years?
Yeah.
Getting denied. Nope, sorry.
Getting denied for sure.
Getting denied.
Yeah, that was, so it was kind of like one of those, of course, everyone that was in that chain of command, great people, obviously. I'm not saying anything bad about them. They were all obviously trying to look out for what was the best, what's the best fit for the Navy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But when it would come down to it, the leadership would constantly change. And when that leadership would change, it would be like, okay, hey, I don't know what that last person promised you, but I can tell you what I can promise you. And so it was like an ongoing, moving promise that kept on going, like finish this deployment and I'll do this, get this qualification and I'll send you. And then by the time that I would get all these things, they would already be gone. So that turned into like a very long process. And that process turned into it became very angry, very bitter, because I was failing my rates, my advancement exams on purpose, so I can go to Buds. And so I was essentially failing my military career just so I can hopefully get a chance to accomplish my goal. So yeah.
Wait a second. So I don't want anyone to miss this. If you're running right now, slow down. Go to a walk, because while it's going to heat you up, guys, 6 or 7 years when you're in your 20s, think about now, delayed gratification. That don't happen. I was like, we want it now. 6 or 7 years, I was going to say, did you ever feel like quitting, saying, I'm getting out of here. My dream ain't going to come true. My goals aren't going to come true. You are failing your exams on purpose so that you can become a SEAL.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Guys, I got goosebumps right now. Like, I don't know if you ever thought about failing something to move forward, but when you have a dream and a goal and a desire so bad that you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, hopping every hurdle that you're supposed to be in a position to live out your dream, and it's being denied, not for a season, not for your high school 4-year career, your college 4-year career, but for 6 or 7 years, to the point where you're going to fail exams to get maybe one last shot. So how did you eventually then become a SEAL? Like what changed? You're failing exams, your people are leaving the posts, and you're getting shunned, and another 6 months or 12 months go by and you're in these roles that you don't necessarily like. What changed? Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this message with Evan Ramirez. My goodness, we talk about an epic, iconic episode. I'm just loving what he's saying. But hey, I want to just give you the opportunity right now. If you're a trainer, coach, or fit pro, or you're an entrepreneur who wants to get in the room for one day, I have a very small, intensive mentorship, one-day mentorship coming up in just a matter of a few weeks. On Friday, August 11th, right here in beautiful San Diego, we have a small group of less than 20 people live in the room with yours truly from sun up to sundown. Yup, we'll be getting together and talking all things business and personal. Yes, we'll work out. Yes, we'll break bread together, and we're going to go deep on how we can amplify all that you are doing to scale your impact. So if you would like to be part of this one-day mentorship program, again, less than 20 people, it's intensive, it's going to be inexpensive and intensive, and it's a great opportunity. So if you want to be in the room live and in person, thank goodness that we're back doing live and in person, this is a great opportunity. So all you got to do is take a look. You can go to toddurkin.com and take a look at the all of the details there. If you want to go to our show notes in this episode right here, go to the show notes. There's a link. You can always DM me on Instagram. I'll get you all the details. I want you in the room. If you're a trainer, coach, or fit pro, be in the room with me live, one-day mentorship, Friday, August 11th. Be there or be square. Now let's go back to the show.
Yeah. What changed was a rumor that I heard. So I was on a deployment, and so I was on it. So we were attached to a battle group, which involves carriers, cruisers, frigates, and like a bunch of ships. And so I was a part of a battle group, but the main command is on the carrier. And since I was one of the senior guys, I was on a small ship, where there's more leniency and everything like that, because they can do that. I ended up receiving an email from a buddy of mine saying, "Hey, I walked by the ready room and I overheard some officers talking about your buds package." And the reply was essentially, they don't think it's even getting to the appropriate location. It's not even getting that far.
What?
So obviously somewhere along the way, the package was either getting dropped, or it was just getting denied without ever really truly coming back to me so I can actually see what I can do to fix it. It was just getting denied and then just moving on. And yeah, so that's how I found out about it. And then so I completely bypassed all my chain of command, and I sent an email to my commanding officer, obviously very angry, because I was essentially affecting my military career.
Which at that point you probably didn't care. You're like, I'm going right to the top. I'm going to cut out the chain of command, which I've never done well, at that point, you're 27. You started when you were 17, 18 years old, like your entire career. Like,
yeah. For about 9 years, I tried to follow the rules, and I had enough. So by the end of that deployment, it was like 2008. And so I was talking to this commanding officer, who was a very good friend of mine this day, because he was the only one that took a bet on, stood true to his word, and I will forever be grateful to him. And so he said, I get it. I understand that people may have made you promises. You're already on this deployment. Just finish this deployment. Do your best. Don't get in trouble. Don't do anything stupid. Just push through this deployment. And I promise you, you have my word that I will fully endorse your next package. And he stood true to his word. As soon as I came off that deployment, he made it very clear that my whole job was to focus on getting better and getting in physical shape for buds. Yeah.
So it became official at that time, when you were done with that deployment, that you were going to buds.
When that deployment was over, I was starting to work out, but nothing was approved, because obviously it has to go from my command, which my command finally approved it, and then they have to send it to somewhere else, and then they have to approve your age group, if they're even allowed. And I had to do a bunch of waivers for time and service, for age waivers and everything like that, because I was already pushing those limits of being too old to go to buds.
At what, 28?
28 at the time. By the time I went into buds, I was 29. Yeah.
And most of the SEALs or folks going in are what, 19 to 23?
Yeah, I would say about 19, or they're about 19 to 21. And it kind of depends on their career path. There's some that are 18 that are just coming out of high school. And I feel like there's a lot more awareness about the SEAL community post 9/11. So I feel like a lot of guys are a little bit more prepared now than what they were.
So here comes Gramps coming into Navy SEAL buds training, right? Like 29. So talk about this, because this is another fascinating topic. I don't know if y'all have the same intrigue as I do. I've watched the shows. I have a lot of Navy SEAL friends. I love listening to stories, but Bud's training is no joke. We're training these men to go out and be straight out killers to get the bad people in the times when we need them. Talk about Bud's training. Man, you go in, you're 29 years old. What was that like? Mm.
Yeah. So at that time, we have a thing called pre-buds, which is like at that time it was like in Great Lakes, Chicago area.
Yep.
And it's like a pre-workout before you go to bud. It's hence the word pre-buds. It's kind of like training you to get in shape for buds.
Yep.
And then people flunk out of that all the time. It's usually the people that get in there that they have SEAL contracts, and then some people don't make the times, and so they're like, okay, they move on. So it's already like a selection process already from post pre-buds.
Sure.
And then you go to buds, and then there's like an in-doc phase. And for some reason, our class had one of the longest in-doc phases ever. And I don't know exactly why, but it was a very extended period of time. And so because of that, there was certain instructors that were getting bored, and so they would come down to our in-doc phase and give us a little bit of extra love. And so you would see guys getting dropped out from even in-doc. And by the time we got into where we phased up for first phase of buds, we definitely lost quite a few guys. And I think I started off with, because I was in charge of the entire, I was the LPO, which is the leading petty officer of buds. It's the senior enlisted guy.
Okay.
And I think we started at 292 guys from Indoc. And then we got down to, I think, 170 or 180 guys phasing up. And then from there, it was like, once we started Hell Week, I think we
How
started
many
with like
phases are there in Buds?
yeah, there's 3 phases in
Yep.
buds.
Yep.
And each phase, there's like a testing phase. And
Got
like
it.
first phase is a phase where it's more of like the gatekeepers. It's very physical. That's where you're going to lose the majority of your guys. It's in that period where it's very physically arduous. Mentally, that's kind of like where you envision buds as a whole. That's where
Hell Week
it's
happens.
go away.
That's where Hell
What's
Week.
that?
That's where Hell Week happens.
That's where Hell Week happens. It's in first phase. That's like that's the gate
That's the graduation of it.
to pass.
Graduation is
Yeah,
phase one. Yep.
yeah. And
And then,
so
and then
it's
phase two is what?
phase 2 is the diving phase.
Mhm.
And so that's where you're doing a lot of swimming, diving, and you're starting to learn how like oxygen charts, and trying to
Yep.
figure out how to become, quote unquote, a better SEAL, because that's where our bread and butter is
Yeah, in the
in
water.
maritime operations.
And phase three is what?
Phase 3 is a lot of like land warfare. It's we go to the island of San Clemente,
Mhm.
and that's where we start doing land nav. We're starting to do a lot of shooting. We're learning how to navigate the terrain and use our weapons to be effective and work as a cohesive unit.
And those 3 phases last how long? If you get through all 3 phases, they'll ring the bell.
The whole thing.
Yep.
It's if you don't fail, it's about 21 weeks, 22 weeks. Yeah, it's 21 weeks, about 7
Yep.
weeks each.
So
And then that's only from phase 1 to phase 3, and that's if everything goes well. And then you
sure.
also have in-doc, and then you have pre-buds,
Yep.
which adds to the timeline.
So go back. You're in phase 1. You talk about how you got through, if you did, like Hell Week and all that. I'm curious, how bad is it?
Well, for me, I feel that it's one of those things that I feel that people know what to expect. Just envision the worst thing possible, as far as, you're going to be tired. you're gonna be, you're gonna be freaking fatigued, you're gonna be sore, you're gonna be wet, you're gonna be sandy. It's everything that you would imagine, just being extremely uncomfortable. Just embrace the suck. At the end of the day,
Hold
it's
on a second.
just
Guys, if you're not watching this, you're just listening. I wish you could see Evan right now. He has this silly grin on his face. Like he just, in a weird kind of way, kind of misses that. But
yeah.
keep going. I'm loving watching the grin on your face, talking about Hell Week and how miserable it is, and you know
Oh,
how bad it's going to be, and you just got
and
this look
that's
like,
exactly it. It's that's the mentality that you kind of had to
mm,
have. It's
mm,
just, all right, well, it
race to
just,
suck.
you embrace the suck. You
Yep.
just know it's gonna come, and then and there was one of those things that you just had to kind of like get your mind right and just be like, okay, we're just go through and push through, and just eat. Look, there's a saying that we say, is just eat an elephant one bite at a time. Because if you look at the whole elephant, quote unquote, buds, or whatever your goal, your mission,
Yeah.
whatever, um if you're looking at the whole thing as from like a macro perspective, it can be overwhelming, it could
Mm,
be a little bit too much to consume. But
mm,
if you just focus on one thing at a time, like that one bite at a time, you knocking out one little thing here and there, but by the time you know it, you've already accomplished 25, 50, 75, and then you're done.
mm.
So it's that whole getting that mind right. Just get past that one evolution. Get past, get to lunch. Get to dinner. Get to like anything. And it's just, that's that mind. It's just
So
embrace
you
the suck.
obviously has that mindset. You have that mentality. Going through that, did you get through that unscathed yourself?
No, I didn't. So once I graduated Hell Week,
Mm,
there's a part there the following week, which is called Walk Week. And Walk Week is one of those things that it's kind of like, because it's, you are literally awake for almost a whole week during Hell Week, and you are just nonstop on your feet, being like, everyone swells up, like their whole body swells up
wow.
afterwards. And
Mm.
so your body is like in a state of shock. And so to kind of like get you through it, you have to push through and you have to get those joints moving. So walk week is essential for getting the joints moving. Even though you're in agonizing pain, it's really hard.
Mm.
So that walk week, we got to like, I think Friday, and obviously we're very competitive individuals. And one of the instructors was like, Evan, let's go. It's like, Ramirez, let's go. You and I, we started doing Indian runs. And so Indian runs is like you're running in formation, and then you go in the
Oh yeah.
middle and sprint up to the front,
Yep.
and then the people in the back go to sprint up to the front. So obviously I'm not going to lose to an instructor. And
God,
and
guys, I love this guy. I love this guy. Can you talked about mind right maniac? Get your mind right. He's like, I'm not going to lose to an instructor.
of course, yeah. So
Oh
they
shoot.
said go, and I took off, and maybe about 3 steps in, I tore my calf.
Oh,
Um, and we were like right around the turning point. So I had about almost like 2 miles to go. So I remember them saying, um, well, you have two options. Either you get in the ambu and you're going to get rolled, or you run back and you'll stay with your class.
rolled meaning
So
you get rolled to the next class. You're out of this
correct.
class. You get rolled to the following class.
Yes,
So you
correct.
have a choice. You pull your calf, gastroc shot. You either say I'm getting rolled or what? Keep going, hopping on
Yep,
one
keep
leg.
going and just push through, and see how far you can get. And that was,
What'd you do?
and I didn't want to get rolled, because at that point you've already,
Mm.
and again, it's those moments of adversity, and you've built such a camaraderie with all those individuals that you've literally blood, sweat, and tears
Mm.
going through Hell Week, and you're just freaking absolutely exhausted. There's nothing that you can really, you've literally bled for everybody there. So there's this
And you're a
camaraderie.
leader at this point. You're the senior enlisted leader.
I am. And so there was like I felt like a responsibility that I didn't want to like leave them. I didn't want to I didn't want to see them move on without me. I guess in a selfish way, I didn't want them to move on without me. But
How many guys are left at this point in that
I think
class
we
of
were
two?
like, I think we were like 50 something.
Okay, so
Hell Week. And it was a winter Hell Week. So surprisingly, we had a lot of guys, really tough guys that made it through. Like
so what
phenomenal
happened?
guys. Even in this community nowadays are legends in our community.
So what did you do? How did you get through that?
So I kept running. So I ran back, and it wasn't like much of a run, but it was like a very bad trot. And the guys kept pushing past me. They were well ahead of me, and then I had the basically the ambulance, following behind me. And so I ran back, hobbling back, and then they took me into medical, and then they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna get rolled." Sorry.
So you didn't even have a choice. So you
I
went,
didn't.
you're like, no, I'm not getting rolled. I'm going. You go hopping basically on one leg, get back, leg blows up in the sense of swelling, inflammation. They're like, sorry, you can't go to the next phase. We're rolling you.
Yeah.
Rolling means what? A few weeks?
It's about, it could depend on where in the pipeline you are, because like sometimes if it falls like during the Christmas timeframe, there may be a break, a longer
Yep.
break. And so I think for me that was maybe about 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks before I would have to go with the next class.
So you're rehabbing, getting ready for the next class. You're probably going through a myriad of emotions of you put your whole heart and soul into this. Now you get rolled to the
Yeah.
next class. You pick up that class at the same spot after Hell Week in
After Hell Week, correct.
round two. And is that when you graduate to the next phase? What happens in this?
Yeah, I wish it were that simple. So I get
Guys,
to,
I don't want to apologize, but I'm fascinated at these answers. I'm digging deep with Evan because it's fascinating to me. This is a man, a 21-year Navy vet, 11-year SEAL. He ain't even a SEAL yet at this point in the story. He's not even a SEAL. It took him 8 years to become to get his billet to get in buds. Now he just gets rolled to the second class, and he's like, okay, season 2, let's go again.
yeah, for
God,
sure.
I'm fired up, Evan. Keep going. Your seat.
So yeah, so from the second part, once I picked up from Hell Week on, was able to go through that class, first phase, went through second phase, and then we got the third phase. And honestly, we were in a part where it was land navigation, and there's a part where you have like this really heavy rock, and you're basically walking around all over the place trying to find land, like little trying to find little points that you're trying to map on your map, and you're trying to navigate to these specific points. And
I see.
there's like something like a dog tag that you have to basically prove that you were there. There's no like, so this dog tag will basically show that you were in this spot. So I don't know when it happened, but like I remember me tripping over something, and I kind of like twisted myself to catch myself, and jumped up, and I'm like, okay, well, still got to keep going, and then kept walking. And then we obviously, something happens where we aren't performing to our best of abilities, and then so we get beat later, and that's every class at the end of the day. Oh, not good enough, let's do it again. And then that night we're sleeping on our cots, and I remember waking up at like midnight or something like that, and my knee was just like in really excruciating pain. I didn't know what was going on, and I literally thought I may have gotten bit by a spider or something like that.
Right.
But I was like, oh well, screw it. Like I'll just see when it is in the morning, and I'll look at it how it gets better. And I'm hoping that by sleeping through it will make it feel better, which is probably stupid, but um
I still get your mindset. I love this.
so that morning I could not put any pressure on my knee. I don't know what happened.
Mm,
uh I ended up, after the fact, I found out that I ruptured my a bursa sac in my knee.
yep.
And that sac, that once it ruptured, it turned septic, and so it just started getting really, really, really bad.
You can
And
die from
so
that.
I kind of just like try to ignore it as much as I possibly could, but I couldn't really walk with the weight on me. And they pulled me from the field, and they were basically like, okay, how did you do the day before? I had all my points, and they're like, okay, we'll pull you from the field. We'll send you to the doctor to look at it. I think that by that point was like Friday. And when I went to the doctor, they kind of like looked at it and they couldn't really identify. They're like, okay, we see some redness. It's very sensitive, really tender. And then they're like, okay, well, just get some rest this weekend, and then we'll see you on Monday. And by Monday, my whole knee like was completely red, and you can see like the lines that I was making, like the little pen marks of like the infection spreading.
Mm.
And so because of that, my knee turned really, really bad. And then I had to go to the ER. Um, and then so they had to like look at it and put me under antibiotics, and they were concerned it was MRSA or whatever it was. And so to the point where they were for a second contemplating about amputating my leg. And I was like, it's not that bad, guys. um, and so from there, obviously, because I was in the hospital for several days, I missed several days of training, and because of that, I had to get rolled again.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wow.
um,
So
once that happened, rolled into the next class as the LPO again.
how many more
Uh,
weeks now go by? Like you're recovering and rehabbing again for another 6, 8 weeks?
weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks.
Jeez Louise.
So
And a shout out to the military medical personnel, by the way, because I know as intense as this is, that they're all over you guys with testing and drawing blood and making sure from a physiological standpoint, they're trying to break you physically and mentally because that's what you're going to face in real war. But I also know, and from knowing some Navy docs who work with the SEALs, the just in insane scrutiny in a great way that the men who are in SEAL training that are in BUDS receive. So as you're sharing all of this, I can envision the medical personnel watching with a keen, close eye. Can he
absolutely.
go on? They know you don't want to pull the dream away, but at the same time, you don't want to die.
Yeah, no, they for sure. They're absolutely instrumental into the success and like for guys. If not, there's a lot of guys that would just push through till they die. And so they have to be that common sense factor of like, no, dude, like
Yep.
you will die if you don't if you push through. And I know of a few guys, so for
See,
sure.
mm, yeah, I'm getting emotional because I can all. You're so humble and soft spoken, but I can only imagine the emotion you feel not once but now twice getting rolled when
Mhm.
after years to get into Bud's training, you're in and you get rolled twice. And I'm sure the mindset is, am I going to be able to do this? Can I do this? I mean, your mind is probably like, yes, I can, but there's also a little bit of doubt that can be like, maybe physically I'm going to get
Yeah.
broken again. So
Yeah. Well, there's also like that fear of like um you getting rolled too many times, and then there's that aspect where like, okay, well, hey, thanks for trying, like, but maybe come back, or this wasn't meant for you.
so
So there's
third
always
time,
that fear of like, okay, well, this is it. This is like
right?
if I get hurt, I'm done. Like
Yeah,
in
Ramirez,
my
you're
mind,
done. You're done, Ramirez. You don't
I
got
don't
what it takes.
know.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was definitely one of those things that you're trying to put your best foot forward, and you're trying to like push through the pain and push through everything, because obviously you want to be done with it, and you want to go through it with your boys. So there's that piece, like you're just trying to fight through it.
So the third time, what happens? Right, you get rolled, and
Yeah.
now you're in season
So
3.
now, so I get rolled into the new class, and then this new class, I end up picking up the LPO spot again because I'm so senior and I've already done it so many times. And I've never had any issues as far as leading the men through those situations.
Mm.
Um, so we go through the island, pass it, we graduate buds, And then once we graduate buds, then we go to SQT, which is SEAL qualification training. This is more like the phase of training where you start getting into like more of the nuances of like what it is to truly be a SEAL. Like you start incorporating all these different things of diving, and you start getting a little bit more in depth. You start getting into a little bit more in depth of like clearing houses, urban combat, like things like that, where you're trying to really figure out what works and what doesn't work, land warfare and everything like that. So
when
making
you're in
correct
that,
calls.
by the way, when you're in that, were you feeling now at this point in your life, you're on point? Like, this is my purpose. This is like, you're learning now skills that to be a SEAL, it's beyond, you're through all the other stuff. Was there ever a point where you're like, okay, I am on point, I am on my North Star, I am right, or not? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever got to the point where I'm like this is it. Like I've made it, if you will.
Did you
But
find your calling? We're like,
some
this is
of it, yeah, I would say some of it was like, oh wow, this is okay. This is what
okay.
now they're teaching me what I've been wanting
There you go.
to
Good, good,
go
good. Okay,
through.
keep going. I was
So
just curious.
yes, there's that part that there was like, okay, absolutely, yeah, I'm finally learning from the best
Right.
guys who had just come back from Fallujah or Ramadi. Like these guys, like we are very fortunate to have some of
Mm,
the best killers that were my instructors going through that pipeline. Like when
mm,
Iraq was going crazy, those were the guys that were just coming back, and they were the guys who so they had a purpose on why they are there, and they're not going to send somebody who wasn't qualified to go and replace them, or be as a buddy to a number
yeah.
two man for somebody who they absolutely respect.
They've seen combat firsthand. They know what it's like. There's training and then
Exactly.
there's real life, and they have both.
And they knew this was serious. So
Mm,
they're going to be very particular about who they would allow past those gates to
man.
join their brothers in arms in the teams.
Mm,
So I was very fortunate in that regard. I always try to put it in context. Like those are those are the guys I'm emulating. Those are the guys
right.
I want to become, and do my job, and
Yeah.
do my job to the best of my ability.
So you're in your
Uh,
third season here. Yep. Yep.
yeah, so I'm on my third. Make it all the way through SQT. We are towards the last part of SQT, where it's literally maybe 2 weeks, a month left. By that point, you already have a date when you're supposed to graduate.
Oh, don't tell me something
You're-
else happened.
oh,
Don't
for
tell me.
sure,
Oh
of
no.
course, of course. This old man was breaking down. Um, so they we are in jump we're in the portion where you're jumping out of
Yeah.
parachutes and everything, like you're jumping from planes, and
Yep.
there's a part where we have static line, which I was a bigger guy at that time. I was probably around 230, 240, going through buds,
That's
and
huge.
yeah, so I
You
was I
guys
was
are
a
what,
bigger guy.
175 to 185 and swim like fish. You're 230, 240 going through like orca.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things that we're definitely working out a lot.
Yeah.
And so because of that, when we're doing the static line, we're landing pretty hard. And then so I ended up doing like ready to move on from static line. We ended up doing the free fall part. And once we did the free fall portion, very first jump solo, my parachute didn't open. And I remember thinking like, this is not right. And so I am basically, my back's to the earth. I'm looking at my bag, which is called the bag lock, and I'm just spinning out of control. And my arms are like out to my sides. And I'm literally trying to get my arms to my chest to get to the reserve. And all I could literally think about was, I should not have done chest yesterday. My chest is so sore.
Are you serious?
I'm like,
You're about to die.
this is the hardest fly that I've ever done in my life.
You're about to die.
Um,
You're like, I should have done chest flies
I
yesterday.
shouldn't have done chest
Darn,
yesterday.
arm, farm, and chest always get you in
Yeah.
trouble. Oh,
So I'm
so
I'm over
you're in a
here.
free fall. Yeah.
I'm in a free fall with my back to the earth. And I'm just spinning spinning on my way down. And I am trying to get my hands to my chest to pull my reserve. And you never want to pull.
What?
You never want to pull with your back to the earth because it's easy. Like once your canopy ends up shooting, you can basically get engulfed in it. So you want to be the bottom part when the canopy opens up,
Okay.
not the other way that the canopy can just engulf you. So I don't know when it happened, but I ended up basically tearing my tendon in my ring finger. And my pinky was to my side, so I like fixed it in mid-flight. And
Wait. So you're in mid-flight, you're free falling, and you dislocate your finger. So you're up there about to die, pulling your.
no, so I ended up getting my reserve open. And
How
then by
close?
that point,
How
when I was
close were you
under
to
the
the ground?
canopy,
How
huh?
close were you to the ground? How close were you to the ground?
I was probably so I was probably 1,200 feet from the ground. That's probably
300
two,
yards.
3 seconds from hitting. Maybe.
Dude,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Wait, 2 to 3 seconds. So if the parachute deploys at you're 2 to 3 seconds from the ground, it's not really going to do its job, right?
Yeah. When you are falling, and by the time you're falling and a parachute ends up ejecting, you're still falling until
Yep.
the canopy ends up getting you. So you're still falling until you slow down. You're still falling maybe 600-700 feet before you're actually under a slow controlled
Right.
speed. So I was under my reserve canopy at that point, and you're supposed to do little checks under your canopy. And so I ended up checking and didn't really realize my finger, but I remember feeling how weird it was the inside of my pinky. And so I look at my pinky, my pinky's at 90 degrees. So I like fix it in flight, and then I land. And once I land, they come up to me, and obviously the reserve canopy is totally different than the actual regular canopy. And
You
they're
just
like, "Oh, what
undermine
happened?
like
You
you could have
okay?" Blah blah
died. You,
blah.
you're just like they come up to me. How fast are you going, guys? I don't know. I'm just flabbergasted. How fast are you going when you hit the ground? Or you
I wasn't
slow?
going very fast because at that point I was already on the canopy.
Okay, so
So
you
I
got
was able
that.
to do a controlled landing. Yeah, I
Okay.
remember as soon as the canopy and I ended up going under it, all I could
Jeez.
do was laugh. And so I started laughing, and I'm like, of course. And then I grab my controls, and I start trying to do my canopy control check. But again, I felt like the inside of my pinky feeling some strings and all that, and that didn't feel right. So I looked up, and that's when I saw my pinky was at 90. I fixed it, and then I ended up going into the I ended up basically landing on the airfield, and they all come up to me, and they're like, "Hey, well, you landed perfectly. Like, what? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." And again, mind you, I'm like a couple weeks from graduating, so
Oh,
I'm like, my family already has their tickets. I don't want to get rolled.
you don't even tell them
Um,
about your pinky.
yeah, and so the pinkies, they look at my hand, and they see my ring finger, and they're like, "Oh, that looks kind of jammed. Like that's really that got pretty swollen." I'm like, "Yeah, it's jammed. It's jammed." No, okay, well, let's get you up on the plane right now, and get you jumping again. And so I jumped immediately afterwards. And I was able to control it with like these three fingers to like get everything.
Did they know that this happened? That you got like you almost died? Did they know that your shoe didn't? They must have.
Yes, they know that I was under a reserve. They know that I pulled I pulled my reserve for a reason, because it's totally different. They didn't
And they're
know what was the situation. They were just like, okay, we're just going to get him out there right now so he can get past his, if there was any fear, get past that fear.
and they bring you back up.
For sure. Yeah, I grab another canopy, put it on my back, get in the plane, go back up, and then do it all over again.
I hope you all are listening to this, because think about, you almost died. I still haven't jumped out of a out of a plane yet, Evan. That's the one thing in life. I'm like, I'm never jumping out of a plane and I'm gonna die. And folks, I don't know if you have or you haven't. And if you have done that, think about this. Your parachute doesn't open. I ain't going up ever again. They not only does Evan almost die and dislocates his pinky, they take him right back up. And I'm assuming just so that you wouldn't have the fear in your head of you're in a mission and you're like, you're scared. You got fear in you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's you're trying to you're pushing past that fear factor, and you are knowing that you can actually accomplish it again. So it's like, obviously your brain's going to process what just happened, but it's definitely trying to be like, okay, but you still got it done.
I think when you study any injury, whether it be acute or chronic, how injury can get embedded in your brain.
Hmm.
And I've shared here on the podcast openly about 2 knee replacements, a back that if you go to my Instagram, you'll see like what your injuries can get embedded in and ingrained in your head, and it can get in your head. We talk about get your mind right and wire your brain right. This is a great example of making sure that your wiring is all right, that you're not going to be living in any form of fear that's going to limit you from a future mission. So I'm really, really intrigued by this. So you go back up, come down, you're good.
Yeah, and so then go back up, end up jumping, and end up doing everything like the way it's supposed to do. So everything worked out fine on the second one, and I believe, and it seems to me all my injuries are happening towards the later parts of the week, like Thursday or Fridays. And so I think this was on a Thursday. The next day, they're like, okay, we start jumping again on Friday. And then once I was about to jump, they're like, hey, let me see that finger again. And then they like made me like close my finger, like squeeze. And this finger wasn't the ring finger. Like I still can't bend it. Like it's still,
Oh my gosh.
so that wasn't bending. And so they were like, okay, like there's something wrong. I'm like, no, no, no. And I had a big old bump right here, and it was clearly the ligament or whatever. They like
And you're trying to
snapped
talk him
back,
out of it. Like, no, it
you know.
used to been like this
No,
before I
no, no.
came.
It's not what it looks like. It's just a jam.
Oh
And
my
they're like, no,
God.
we're not stupid. So they sent me to the doctor, and once I went to the doctor, it was like surgery right away. Yeah.
Oh,
So then I got rolled, but for that one,
oh.
because it was a surgery, I got rolled 2 classes because I had a cast that I couldn't do literally anything with. So
So now that's what, 3/4, 5 months of delay?
yeah, I would say that was probably about, um, yeah, about, yeah, about 3 months, 3, 4 months.
Did you ever think about quitting?
Um, I think that there was parts of you that definitely come in the point of like, you start second guessing yourself.
Mm,
But for me, it wasn't that easy. Like I did. I think there's moments of weakness. Everybody has them, and you're
mm,
like thinking like, come
preach.
on, like give me a break. But
Mm.
I didn't really go through with those actions because when I was in charge, and I felt I had a responsibility to everybody. So if I felt that if I quit, it would have affected the whole dynamic of the group. So I was able to kind of like put all those feelings and basically say stop being selfish, and just push through, and even though that this was something I really wanted to do from the beginning. So
Get surgery. You're out 6 months. Was the fourth time? Please tell me yes. It was a charm.
that was
Like
it. That was it.
that was
Yeah.
it.
So once I got the surgery done, that was
You only had like a week left.
that was my calf, my knee, and then my hand. So that was my third roll. So after that, was able to graduate finally, and then I ended up going to some language school, and then I went to my first team. Yeah.
From start to finish, buds, how long did it take you? You said earlier on it normally takes someone about 21 to 22 weeks. If you tallied up all of the time, including the times you were rehabbing, what was your buds training? It was probably over a year.
Well over a year. I think it was from 2009, and by the time I ended up checking into my team, it was like 2011, like end of 2011, so almost 2 years.
So
Yeah,
you spent 2 years essentially in buds.
yeah, yeah. Going through the fun
I don't know if this is,
Fun times.
I don't know if you ever looked at this or if they really keep record of this, but I'm not going to say is that normal because nothing about buds is normal. Even if you get through it one time, but is that one of the longest times that a seal's ever taken?
Um,
No.
No, it isn't. There's been longer times, and obviously it's based off of the type of person you are and the instructors. If they really like you, if they think that you would be a good asset, obviously they have an understanding of that buds is a very, very difficult pipeline, and it's there to break you. That's the whole point behind it. They're trying to see who is physically but yet mentally capable of still pushing through the pain and still be there for their guys.
Mm.
So if they see that that's a part of your DNA, they're not going to try to drop you. If they and there's also peer reviews that the individuals in your class will assess you, and they'll be like, yeah, that guy's a good guy, or no, he's a dirtbag. So therefore they take that all into consideration. If you're all in it for yourself, you're gonna I probably would have been rolled by the first time. Like there would have been no questions.
Talk about a leadership lesson right there for any company, corporation, business team. You know, the one thing I keep hearing, Evan, for you is you always put your teammates first. Even when the fact you blow out your knee, your calf, your finger, you're thinking about, man, I don't want to let my team down. I don't want them to pass, and I can't be there for them. And you know, in the time that I've known you, and here even on our conversation, is I just feel such humility and hear it in your voice. And you think about a mission, you think about all that you've done, on that. I want to say thank you for just getting through Bud's training after 3 attempts to make a 4th attempt, because then 11 years, obviously we're not going to go through all of that, but in your 11-year career as a Navy SEAL, how many different deployments did you end up going on?
As a SEAL, I went
Yep.
on 3 different deployments, and one being a national tasking. Yeah.
What does that mean, a national tasking?
One, a national tasking is basically something that is a very secretive deployment, and it can kind of be typically it's under a tier 1 element.
Mm.
And so it's a specific mission set where you're trying to accomplish something, not in the sense that you're at a location for presence. You're there to accomplish a specific mission at hand.
Mm. Mm. So you're SEAL Team 1, correct? From 2011 through 2018. Is that about right?
No, I was with SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1.
Yep.
And from there, I ended up going to SEAL Team 1 after
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha.
And then my last command was the advanced training command, where I was in charge of the combatives department.
Without getting too in depth, but from a memory standpoint, I'm not saying good or bad. Do you have a most memorable or I don't want to say favorite, but a memory that sticks out in any of your time as a SEAL on anything that you did, or something, a comrade, a colleague, that I don't know, has stuck out to you at all?
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a couple. I'd say my first deployment as a SEAL, obviously the national tasking was really, really amazing because of the fact that um, it was one of those things that you realize, like my grandmother passed away on that deployment, and I couldn't even send a message to anybody. Like it was one of those things that the importance of the mission was so important. Like it was well beyond everybody, that this was a no fail mission. That was one of those things that we couldn't even communicate to basically send our condolences, and that's probably one of those things that was like, because of the fact of how, with the importance of the mission, that was really cool. But I would have to say my last deployment as well, in
Mm.
2018, that one stuck to me as well, because I had really great leaders that were working with me. And I felt like I learned a lot from those individuals. And they they worked around the clock to make sure that we had missions. They like making sure that the boys were the boys were getting work. At the end of the day,
Mm,
that's what we are. We're there to get a job done. So they worked around the clock to make sure that that happened.
mm,
And I knew this was my last deployment. So that really set the tone for me. And I was very fortunate to have a bunch of great guys that I was able to work with and that
mm.
worked for me and everything like that. So um, when you're surrounded by those type of individuals, good guys or good gals, or just a team that's there for one objective, it's really meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. So many lessons and thoughts here in your entire, all the way from your childhood. You think about growing up and have a little bit of a rough childhood and getting court ordered to go in the military, like
Yeah.
you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
To I bet your upbringing actually helped you get through buds, because if you didn't get through buds, you wouldn't have an 11-year career as a SEAL, let alone 21 years in the Navy. I think about what a blessing that is. In a moment, I want to ask you about your lessons. If you were to wrap this all in a bow, in 21 years as a uh, Navy and obviously as a SEAL as well, I first want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for your service. Um, you and all the men and women who fight for the freedom that we don't even know what's going on. We don't know the hell that's going on down here in Coronado, and you're being trained and everything else. We obviously have a great appreciation and respect for that. But Evan Ramirez, when I got to know you a few weeks ago, the first time through Gus Cheliotis, I'm like, this is the kind of cat I want to be in a foxhole with. This is the kind of guy that when stuff goes down, I want him in my corner. I want to be working with him. I don't care if it's business, if it's sport, if it's life. This is the kind of guy I want to be around. But I want to say thank you, because any time in the military is a huge honor. But when you've been through what you've been through and you've done what you and your teams have done, brother, man, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to your wife and your kids for all your service you've done. From the bottom of my heart, I know I speak for all of us listening in, man. Thank you for all your time.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. And we don't obviously do it for the for the gratitude or anything like that. We're there. We're there for, like, in a sense where we want to be there at the same time. Like, and I'm very grateful for you for saying that. Thank you.
Well, in your experience, you've obviously learned a lot, lessons and principles. And I just like for anyone listening in right now to think about, maybe, Evan, if you could share, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, maybe lessons that you've learned in your 21-year career, naval career. And I want y'all to think about, hey, how does this relate to me? And whatever you do, right? Whether it's in finance, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a trainer, you're a coach, you're a teacher, whatever it is. But can you just share maybe a few of the lessons that you have learned from your 21-year naval career?
Yeah. I would say that something that I always said when I was in charge of the combatives department, right towards my latter part of my career, my twilight tour. I would always tell the guys that were coming through. I said, hey, just think of 5 H's. And those 5 H's for me, and I felt like that pertained a lot to the SEAL teams or any special organization, was be hard, be helpful, be honest, humble, and hungry.
Mm,
And I felt like that was kind of like one of those things that you could just, that can pertain in almost anything. That could pertain in your work, that could pertain into your personal life, it's education, anything. So yeah, be hard, helpful, honest, humble, and hungry.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Um,
I'm going to count that as lesson number 1.
okay.
5 H's.
Uh,
Number 2, what
yeah,
do we got?
another thing would probably be just focus on what you can control.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
one of the biggest things is people tend to sweat the small stuff that's completely out of their control, and just wrap their mind around that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, you can only focus on the things that are controllable, and do the best that you can and make the best educated guess that you can. And that's all you really can do.
So when you
And
blow out your calf, you get rolled. You're not worrying about all the woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's I got to attack my rehab to get back.
for
Yeah.
sure. And that's kind of like, all I knew at that time was I can control, am I going to get rolled or am I not going to get rolled? And based off of the information that I had. And so I was like, I'm not going to get rolled. So I can control that aspect of me. Can I keep pushing? Can I keep going forward?
Mm,
And that was the only thing that I could control.
mm,
Now,
so good.
decision wise of like having me stay or go, that wasn't in my control.
So good. Number 3, what do you got?
So this also pertains to a lot of like even in my younger youth, but surround yourself with with good people. Surround yourself with high performing individuals. And that was one of those things that when I was younger, I didn't really put that into consideration because obviously you're that person that's I know better, blah blah blah. But I quickly realized, especially once I left to the military, I realized that who I surrounded myself at that time was making a dramatic implication on how my life was turning out to be. And so that's kind of one of those things that I've definitely turned into, even to this day. I really try to be very picky on who I'm surrounding myself with.
Mm,
If are they going to bring me down? Because no matter what, even in the SEAL teams or even in any community, high performing organization, no matter what education you have, you're still going to have your dirt bags in that community.
mm,
All that tells you is they're either really smart or they're just not.
yeah.
They have they have the ability to get past it, but that doesn't mean that they're good people or they're in it for you or for the organization.
And
So
so good. So good. I know I've said this 1,000 times here on the podcast. Y'all have heard it before, but if you don't like the 5 people that you're around, or you don't like where you're at in this life, you better figure out who you can surround yourself with. That's going to elevate your own mindset, heart set, soul set, physical set, whatever it is. My hope is that this conversation with Evan right now is elevating your vibration, your energy to say, you know what, I'm going to step up my game. I'm going to make sure that I'm making the right choices. Evan shared when he was younger, he didn't make the right choices. So if you're a young man or woman, boy or girl, heck, I don't care how old you are. Right. If you want to be a better entrepreneur, you want to make more money, you want to be more spiritually sound, then just find people either you want to be more spiritually sound, more who have better faith. You want to be a millionaire, hang out with millionaires. If you want whatever, you want to be a great athlete, hang out with great athletes. You want to be a great trainer, hang out with great trainers. It's who you surround yourself with is everything. Man, number 4, what do you
yeah,
got?
iron sharpens iron at the
True
end of the
that.
day.
Yep.
Um, so number 4, be the best version of yourself.
Mm,
Nobody's perfect. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that you just need to understand.
yeah.
And all you can do is again kind of control what you can control, and you can control how you behave, you can control what your actions are, and at the end of the day just try to be better, try to like look at what is going to improve your day, improve the people around you, not necessarily bring it down.
Mm,
So
love it. Be the best version of yourself. Next.
um everything in life, there's lessons. There's no losses, in my opinion.
Mm,
Even in
mm,
really bad situations that we've had overseas, we've had guys who we've lost, and yeah, that feels like a loss. But at the end of the day, these were lessons that we brought back, in the sense of things that we can do better. And that's whether it's training, whether it's real, whether it's business, whether it's everything. And there's no losses. They're only lessons, and it's okay to fail, and that's how you learn.
yeah.
So that's
That's
kind of like
definitely a
my
mentality. It's definitely a mentality, right? I mean, it's easy to dwell on a loss if it's a sport, it's a loss you have and it brings you down. But when you have that mentality that everything in life is a lesson, or there are lessons in every win and loss, um, that approach, that mentality allows you to think that this life is a journey. And in the
Mhm.
journey of life, there's wins and losses, ups and downs, good times and bad times, happy times
Sure.
and sad times. It's how do we embrace that? So at the end of the day, it's a harmony. It's a harmony that's beautiful. That this sound is gorgeous, because if we're always at a high, which we want to be, then you wouldn't even recognize it's a high, because that's always the way it is. It's this harmonious flow of life that Evan is alluding to, that ultimately allows us to be more fulfilled. So everything in life is a lesson. Let's go one more. You got one more, maybe?
Yeah. Don't be a victim. I think that's probably one of the biggest things by not being a victim. Like at the end of the day, things happen. Again, kind of alluding back to what we were talking about. Things happen, and you can't use that as a crutch in life, because there's so many things in life that happen. And if you use it as a crutch, it's all about perspective, and view it, change your perspective on certain things. So don't be a victim. Just try to be like, okay, this happened, and how do we fix it? How do we make it better?
Man, don't be a victim, guys. Another mentality. That's a mentality, right? We talk about the victor mentality versus the victim mentality. All of these are a mentality. Those are 6 lessons. I'm going to add one, because Evan, when he talks about humility, doesn't even realize this, but I'm going to add one that I think that is pertinent to you, Evan Ramirez, is just overcome adversity at all, whatever you got to do. I'm thinking all the way from you as a kid, you growing up, you getting court order to the military, to 4 tries in Bud's training, including multiple injuries, to multiple deployments. I mean, all the adversity. I think the 7 to 8 year window of you trying to get to Bud school and overcoming adversity, like that was your dream. Here you are in your 20s, and you're just getting not even a no. You're just getting passed on. It's like, what the heck? I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. So again, that's not being the victim mentality of that. It's finding that way of overcoming adversity. So I'm going to say it now. I don't know when it's going to happen. I hope this man writes a book on those 7 principles alone, and the stories are behind this. This has been an epic podcast. I believe it might be one of our longest podcasts, because it's so darn good. On that, I hope you can share this podcast. 7 great lessons and principles to live by. I don't care who you are. These are all great things. But let me ask you this as we close out. What's next? You're retired. You've been on missions since you've been 17, 18 years old in the Navy. Now you're retired after 21 years. What's next for Evan Ramirez?
Yeah. Well, I'm starting school and getting my graduate degree with my MBA at UCLA here in September. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm trying to basically bridge that gap between knowing only the military, and because that's something I've only done my entire adult life, and so now it's time to close that book, try to get a new, try to open up a new one, and start learning what the corporate civil world is like, and so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Know that you have a friend here for life, brother. And I know you got a lot of people in your corner. I also know that you're a family man, and what is it, 2 kids, 9 and 6?
I do. Yeah. 2 boys. I'm definitely trying to catch up on those times, and it's definitely trying to be present for sure with them.
And don't miss it. You're in the wheelhouse. You and your wife, and you think about this, and I just shared this recently about 18 summers. You got 18 summers with these young men, and nothing will ever replace that time, especially as a father and a son, that you have with them. So after a great naval career, I believe that your best years are still ahead, because the lessons and wisdom that you have, and I don't care if you go into defense contracting, if you go into the entrepreneurial world, you got other things going on. You have so much wisdom and experience and work ethic and humility, and your attitude to help, and all of these things. Your future is bright. I know these next 20 years for you, Evan, are going to be just absolutely incredible. So thank you. And I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to be part of your journey from afar, man.
Thank you, Todd. I really do appreciate it. This has been amazing. Very first
Not-
podcast. So I've been,
Yeah.
hopefully I didn't ruin it.
Yeah, I should have reported that, guys. This is Evan's first podcast. When I asked him, "Hey, would you be willing to share this?" He's like, "I've never done a podcast." I'm like, "Perfect, it just be you, man." So,
Yeah.
hey, if you enjoyed this, can you please share it? Let someone know. It doesn't matter who they are, their age. As the Todd Durkin Impact Show continues to rapidly rise up the podcast charts, it's great men and women and guests like Evan Ramirez that can help us do that, and it's folks like you who help share this great news and inspiration that we give every darn week. Evan, if someone wants to follow you, is there a place that they can go to, or are you using social media or not yet? Is there a place?
I have a social media page, and I don't really know how to use it.
I love that. I love that.
I think it's like Instagram, and I just basically go by Evan Ram 81.
Evan Ram 81 on Instagram. I'll put it in the show notes.
I have no
God,
idea.
how nice that. He's like, I think I have that thing on it. Yeah, I love that, Evan. That is a breath of fresh air, my man. I encourage, I hope at some point this man writes a book, because he has so much just special in him. So much special in him. And I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart on behalf of our entire community here at the podcast, at the gym with Fitness Quest 10, and all the communities I help lead. Evan Ramirez, man, you are a true American hero, and it was an honor to have you on the show today, brother.
Thank you so much. It was great to be on here.
Thank you. God bless you, man. Peace. All right.
All right. Take care.
Wow. Oh, wow. My friends, I don't even know what to say, because rarely am I speechless, but listening to Evan's stories about especially the buds training and overcoming all of the injuries here in the beginning, and then his lessons that he has learned that apply to everyone. Phew, man, oh man, that was an incredible episode. And I'm full of gratitude whenever I have the opportunity to speak to any man or woman who has served in our military. But when it comes to a Navy SEAL who has a 20+ year career and has overcome incredible odds and adversity to have the career that he has had to serve our great country as he has, I am so darn proud just to have him on this podcast and on this show. It was his first podcast, and he said he was really nervous, and I think he did a heck of a job. So thank you, Evan Ramirez. Again, if you want to follow him, hop over to his Instagram. I'll put all that in the show notes. Please, again, I said it, but do us a favor. Please share this on your social media. Take a picture right now. Pop us a picture. Write it up in the stories. Tag me at Todd Durkin. Hashtag Impact Show. Let's get this out, because we have one heck of a summer planned. Every episode that I put out, I take great pride that somehow there's going to be some wisdom in there that's going to change your life. So until next time, remember, you got to train hard, you got to eat right, you must live inspired, and whatever you do,